Sophia, put away the porn radio, okay? We're on to religion. We're on Bible now.
So today we're going to be talking about the women in Nevi'im, or the prophets. When we're talking about the prophets in reference to the Hebrew Bible, the books we're talking about are Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel, which are the major prophets, and Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Zechariah, Haggai, and Malachi, or the minor prophets. The notable book that isn't on that list is Daniel. Although Daniel does contain passages that the author obviously intended to be read as prophetic, it isn't considered a book of prophecy by Jewish authorities, and never was as far as I can tell.
So it's really a content delineation that a majority is not prophecy?
Yeah, the beginning parts of the book are autobiographical, or at least, written that way.
Yes. Memoir?
So, yeah, it's just, it belongs in writings, or ketuvim, according to the Jewish scholars, and not in Nevi'im, or the prophets. So, since we covered the women in Genesis last time, you might think we'd go through the rest of the Torah today, but honestly, most of the stories of the women and the rest of it aren't found in the Torah, they're found in the Midrash.
Which is?
A Jewish version of the Muslim
Hadith?
Hadith, yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know that existed for the Jewish tradition.
Yeah, it's much more common to hear about the Islamic one.
Yeah,
And partly the reason why is that you can't take religious ruling the Midrash.
Okay, so it's lost its jurisprudence power?
Yes, it doesn't have jurisprudence power. So
okay.
it does have all
Did it at one point earlier in the history?
It may or may not have.
Okay, well, it's very interesting, because that's something already that I've learned that I had no idea even existed.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And for women like Miriam, the sister of Moses, or Zipporah, his wife, there's very little besides their names listed in the Torah, but there's a wealth of interesting stories in Midrash. And the laws of Moses don't really cover women or women's rights that often. They're almost all directed specifically at men, especially in terms of the pronouns and the verb tenses used. And the only law, or I suppose omission from the laws, that I'd like to point out in particular is that, well, there's a very long list of people who you can't have sex with, and most of them are what you'd expect. It's your mother, your mother-in-law, stepdaughter, stepmother, your daughter-in-law. The one group that is missing from the list is daughter by a woman who is not your wife. The daughter of your wife is on that list, whether or not that is your daughter. So that includes, both her daughters by you and any daughter by a previous marriage or whatever, but not the daughter of your concubine. And I think that's just a very interesting omission in a time where those arrangements would have been fairly common. So it's not to say that Hebrew men were having sex with their illegitimate daughters. It's just not on the list of sins found in the Bible.
Now, a question, obviously in this last installment of this program, we were talking about how the Hebrews, or, yet to be Jews /Jews, were in the Persian Empire being quite toadies, and they were trying to cement themselves within the hierarchy, and they had ingratiated among themselves the Zoroastrian propagation of incest. So here we are looking at a list of people you cannot have sex with that prohibits incest. What is the amount of time that has gone since the last books we were talking about and this period?
Very little. Probably at most 30 to 50 years. And probably this was more a response to the locals having a taboo on, incest than it was a significant change in the landscape.
Definitely, in such a short period, that's almost too quickly for a taboo to develop, society.
So I think that the elites were kind of just out of touch.
which makes sense, especially if they were located in Persia.
Yes.
And would these books, do you think, have been written in modern day the Holy Land?
Yes, they would have been.
Okay, so that's very interesting.
I think that the authors were responding to the social pushback they were getting from people who were like, no, we are not getting rid of our taboo. We are not going to start marrying our mothers.
Yes. Yeah, or sisters, daughters, whatever. Okay. And so another question regarding that, that seems to indicate that there would be, at this time, maybe two centers of Jewish power vying for influence, or two Jewish traditions vying for influence. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, it's accurate to an extent. And I think that also there's kind of a social difference between the elites and your average Joe, because I don't think that your average Joe would have been literate. I think he would have been, a subsistence farmer working his fields all day.
Yes.
And when this guy rolls up, who he's never seen before, this is some Persian guy who's rich.
Yeah.
And it's telling him, oh, hey, by the way, this is your local religion that you've been practicing. We know, because we were in Persia for the last 100 years. I think that they probably received quite a bit of pushback from that.
Absolutely. You paint such a vivid picture of this situation. So thank you for answering those questions. That's very interesting.
Oh, you're welcome. And I'm not going to run through the history of when the books we're examining today were written and by whom. So instead, I'm going to be talking about the themes that run between the books. If you want more information about the books themselves, when they were written, and why, please watch The History of the Old Testament with Christine Hayes. It's in my saved playlists if you want to watch it on YouTube. Or it's also available for download on iTunes if you want to visit oyc.yale.edu and search for RLST 145. That's Religious Studies 145. It's a 25-hour playlist, and it'll go into a lot more detail than I have time to. The OIC thing is for Open Yale courses.
Okay, wonderful.
And it's basically just Yale courses that they stuck a camera in and then just posted it online. So it's a great resource. We've got a lot of different kinds of
bourgeois, but wonderful.
Yes. Yeah, it's a really interesting thing if you have a couple of hours to spend.
Yeah, that they essentially give away their education that if to get credit for is so expensive.
Yes.
So you know what? There's no excuse. There's no excuse other than not having an internet connection to not say you have a Yale education, right?
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing that I do with my free time because I'm a weirdo.
Which, hell yeah, that's amazing.
So on to Isaiah. The first woman in the book is in chapter 7. This is the passage where you get the commonly misquoted "a virgin shall conceive" line that Christians like to quote around Christmas. I'm going to give you the entire prophecy.
Yeah, because of course it doesn't refer to Jesus. We know, and I mentioned this in the conversation with my friend, that I believe I learned this from you, and a combination of D.R. Murdoch, that when Jews had previously referred to the Messiah, it was Cyrus. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, and that Christians, to create their tradition, had oftentimes taken Old Testament prophecy and I guess repurposed it for their supposition that the fulfillment of the Jewish Messiah was Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So the passage starting in verse 7, Isaiah chapter 7, verse 7. Thus saith the Lord God, it shall not stand, neither shall it come to pass. For the head of Aram is Damascus, the head of Damascus is Rezin. And within 65 years shall Ephraim be broken, that it be not a people. And the head of Ephraim is Samaria, and the head of Samaria is Remaliah's son. If ye will have faith, surely ye will not be established. And the Lord spoke again unto Ahaz, saying, Ask ye a sign of the Lord thy God. Ask it either in the depth or in the height above. But Ahaz said, I will not ask, neither will I try the Lord. And he said, Hear ye now, O house of David, is it a small thing for you to weary men, that you will weary my God also? Therefore the Lord himself shall give you a sign. Behold, the young woman shall conceive and bear a son, and call his name Emmanuel. Curd and honey shall he eat, when he knoweth to refuse the evil and choose the good. Yea, before the child is shall know to refuse the evil and choose the good. The land whose 2 kings thou hast horror of shall be forsaken. The Lord shall bring upon thee, and upon thy people, and upon thy father's house, days that have not come, from the day that Ephraim departed from Judah, even the king of Assyria. In context, the city was under siege by 2 kings. One of them was Remaliah's son, and the other was Rezin. And so, because of this, God is giving assurances to Ahaz, telling him that, no, this problem is going to go away soon. Isaiah went to the king and said, hey, in 65 years you're going to have total relief from your enemies. Both the kings who are besieging you now will be dead before the kid this woman here is going to have will be weaned. And then in chapter 8, the child is actually born. Went unto the prophetess. Note that I think that this is supposed to mean the woman of the prophecy, as in pointed to in the last chapter, and not the woman who prophesied. And she conceived and bore a son. Then the Lord said to me, call his name Maher-shalal-Hash-baz, before the child shall have the knowledge to cry, the riches of Damascus and the spoil of Samaria shall be carried away before the king of Assyria. Therefore, behold, the Lord bringeth upon them the king of Assyria in all his glory, and he shall come up over all his channels, and go over all his banks, and he shall sweep through Judah, overflowing as he passeth through. He shall reach even unto the neck, and the stretching out of his wings shall fill the breadth of thy land, O Emmanuel.
Question. Maher-shalal-Hash-baz. Do Christians try to equate that with Jesus?
No, because that would be stupid.
And we know Christians never do anything stupid. So you're saying that they would often say, to a virgin born or whatever. Do they just chop off the last part or give it no context or what?
They just chop it off entirely. And that's why I'm bringing, trying to bring the context back.
Which totally makes sense because the passage in and of itself, and I'm able to read Slavoj Žižek, so I am able to interpret meaningless texts, but I could not understand the gist of a lot of what was going on. And is this, what are we still with the Orthodox Jewish translation? Because this seems New King Jamesy.
Yes, this is still JPS.
Okay, so we're still in the Jewish publications. Okay. Sounds kind of like the King James Version.
Yeah, it was translated in 1917. They did this.
But still, it seems even throwbacks, even then, like saith and blah blah blah. I guess even they could be under the sway of what the Bible or the Old Testament was supposed to have sounded like. But that's another topic. Let's continue with the solid, hardcore Bible passages.
Maher-shalal-Hash-baz, or Emmanuel, is the child who was born to the woman who, the Bible who Christians translate as being the virgin. So it's not a future prophecy. It's about a child that was born literally in the next chapter.
Under siege.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Under siege. And then the siege lifted because the king of Assyria came in, and suddenly the other 2 kings had bigger things to worry about than their siege of Jerusalem.
Okay.
So that's the context.
Okay.
So this theme of have kids and their names will be used as prophetic tools is also an idea that's found in Hosea. So in Hosea chapter 1, the Lord said unto Hosea, Go, take unto thee a wife of harlotry and children of harlotry, for the land doth commit great harlotry, departing from the Lord. So he went and took Gomer, the daughter of Diblaim, and bore him a son.
All I can think of is Louis Gomer. Do you know Louis Gomer?
No.
The Republican, either representative or senator. That's all I can think of when I hear Gomer.
Well, this one's a prostitute.
Oh my God! Aren't they all? Let's continue. That doesn't even need any more comment.
And Gomer conceived and bore him a son, and the Lord said unto him, Call his name Jezreel, for yet a little while, and I will visit the blood of Jezreel upon the house of Jehu. Jezreel, at this point, is the family name of a house in which Jehu murdered Ahab, who was the former king, and the husband of Jezebel.
Okay.
So, because Ahab had been murdered by Jehu at Jezreel, God is saying that the house of Jehu has to pay in Jezreel.
Okay. But again, referring to a very specific historical event, non-prophecy.
Yeah. God says, I will visit the blood of Jezreel upon the house of Jehu, and will cause to cease the kingdom of the house of Israel. And it shall come to pass in that day, O of Israel, in the valley of Jezreel. And she conceived again, and bore a daughter. And he said unto him, Call her name Lo-Ruhamah, which translates to no mercy. For I will have no more compassion on the house of Israel, that I should in any way pardon them. Now when she had weaned Lo-Ruhamah, she conceived and bore a son. And he said unto her, Call his name Lo-Ammi, for ye are not my people, and I will not be yours. And Lo-Ammi translates to not people mine. So it's not my people. So from a woman in the book's point of view, it's pretty cut and dry. Men get to have the big interpersonal and international conflicts and go out on great campaigns and make great presentations and do lots of cool stuff and often very bizarre stuff. Isaiah goes and he talks to kings. Jonah gets thrown over the side of a boat and swallowed by a fish.
I like how you made the distinction. Not a whale, it's just a fish.
Jeremiah goes and he buys a new belt, buries it, and retrieves it. In Isaiah 36, a Syrian official named Rabshakeh goes and talks to the king of Jerusalem and basically offers them a peace treaty. The nobles will suffer a bit, but the average man will be able to go back home, and then yells at the average Joe from the city in their own language that if the officials don't take his offer, average Joes are going to be the ones who are going to be eating shit and drinking piss.
Like literally, that's what it says?
Yes, that's what he tells them. But the women in these stories, all they do is have kids. None of the individual women mentioned in the prophets have any kind of interesting adventures. And in fact, they're usually being used as nothing more than props in the men's stories. So in Amos 7, for example, the prophet Amos is having a fight with the priest Amaziah. And Amos says to Amaziah, Now therefore, hear thou the word of the Lord. Thou sayest, Prophesy not against Israel, and preach not against the house of Isaac. Therefore, thus saith the Lord, Thy wife shall be a harlot in the city, and thou thyself shalt die in an unclean land, and Israel shall surely be led away captive out of his land. So the women are just like tools in the men's stories. Mm-hmm. Not very nice for them.
Which would indicate if this is a representative of the more backwater, less cosmopolitan, less Persian, more Holy Land, Hebrew-centric, Semitic culture, then we know that more of what women were even, what their options were in that kind of society was pretty much having children.
Oh, 1 second. I'm just getting some weird texts.
Okay.
Somebody texted me, Can I live with you right now?
Oh my God, what?
As you can see from the passage in Hosea, there is another way that women are alluded to, which is as a metaphor for the Israelite kingdoms. The other nations, when they are personified, are for the most part personified as men. Like in Isaiah chapter 15, for the night of Ar that Moab laid waste, he is going to be brought to ruin. For the night of Ker that Moab is laid waste, he is brought to ruin. He is gone up to bathe and to Dibon, to the high places to weep. Upon Nebo and upon Medeba, Moab howleth. So Moab in this, little prophecy is personified as male. Okay. But when the prophets are speaking about the kingdom of Israel, they are overwhelming by the kingdom as a woman and characterize both the good and bad things that are happening to the kingdom as a lover's spat between God and the nation. Like we already saw in Hosea, the bad things Israel did were a personified woman against her husband. I say kingdom because when most of the texts were written, there was only one kingdom, which was Judah, and the kingdom of Israel was but a distant memory. So the inhabitants of Judah appropriated the name for their own people. But in some passages, like Ezekiel 23, it does separate the two.
Question. So the kingdom of Israel was a distant memory. Was it incorporated into Judah?
But these survivors were. The rest of it mostly just belonged to other kings.
Okay, so there was just a kingdom there that was unrelated.
It had the unfortunate location of being between much bigger nations.
Oh yeah, Egypt,
Assyria, and Rome,
exactly,
and Greece.
Yeah, and the Hittites, if they were still around.
Yeah, so all these different, much much stronger nations had a habit of just marching through and carrying everyone away captive.
Yeah, which is, we're actually in an interesting period as today, despite still occupying a strategic, I guess you could say, position, power emanates from Israel. So we're in a historically very unusual moment in the 20th and 21st century.
Yeah, it's a very interesting reversal of the little history.
So I'm just curious about the former Israel. Was it occupied by Egypt?
Well, Israel is the northern kingdom. Judah is the southern kingdom.
Israel's the northern. Okay, so was it Hittites or Assyrians or Phoenicians?
Yes, I believe it's Assyrians at this point.
Okay,
and
that would make sense, yeah.
The king in Judah was not a king as we think of it. He was more of a vassal.
Okay, a vassal of the Assyrians?
Because he was willing to pay tribute.
Okay, that makes total sense. Okay, yeah.
So, in Ezekiel, it separates the two nations. And here's some choice verses from that chapter, because it is really rich in its imagery. And the names of them were Aholah the elder, and Oholibah her sister, and they became mine, the wives of God, and they bore sons and daughters. And as for their names, Samaria is Aholah, and Jerusalem is Oholibah. And Aholah played the harlot when she was mine, and she doted on her lovers, on the Assyrians, warriors. Neither hath she left her harlotries brought from Egypt, for in her youth they lay with her, and they bruised her virgin breasts, and they poured out their lust upon her. Mm-hmm. Wherefore I delivered her into the hands of her lovers, into the hands of the Assyrians upon whom she doted. And her sister Oholibah saw this, yet she was more corrupt in her doting than she, and she in her harlotries more than her sister's harlotries. And she increased her harlotries, for she saw men portrayed upon the wall, images of the Chaldeans portrayed with vermilion, girded with girdles upon their loins, and pendant turbans upon their heads, all of them captains to look upon. And the likeness of the sons of Babylon, even of the Chaldea, and the land of their nativity. And as soon as she saw them, and sent messengers into Chaldea, and the Babylonians came to her into the bed of love, and they defiled her with their lust, and she was polluted with them, and her soul was alienated from them. Yet she multiplied her harlotries, remembering the days of her youth, wherein she played the harlot in the land of Egypt. And she doted upon her concubinage with them, whose flesh is as the flesh of asses, and whose issue, or semen, is like the issue of horses. Thus thou didst call to remembrance the lewdness of thy youth, when they from Egypt bruised thy breast for the bosom of thy youth. Okay,
who's this girl's name again?
It's Oholibah, and Oholibah is the personification in this chapter of the kingdom of Israel.
Okay, so it's not a woman. Not even purporting to be a real person. So it's just describing the power relations of submitting to the various powers around them?
Yeah, exactly.
But if it were an actual person, I would be jealous of said person. Because she gets Assyrian dick, Egyptian dick, Chaldean dick, Babylonian dick. I'm jealous.
A lot of dick.
A lot of dick.
And they have really big dicks, apparently. Their
and
dicks are like horses.
The semen issues like the semen of a horse, so it's like Peter North. Middle Eastern Peter North. Yeah, well, okay.
It's some very interesting imagery.
There is no pussy blocking in this part.
Nope.
This is only going to make sense if they listen to Jacob. To catch the other part of this. So that's sort of an inside joke. That's why you got to listen to Jacob, episode 1.
Continuing on, God then goes on to say in that chapter that since the people of Judah have played the harlot by choosing other gods, he will sell them into slavery. And this theme also appears in other passages, like Isaiah chapter 50. Thus saith the Lord, where is the bill of your mother's divorcement, wherewith I put her away? Or to which of my creditors is it to whom I have sold you? For behold, for your iniquities you were sold, and for your transgressions was your mother put away. Wherefore, when I came, was there no man, and when I called, was there none to answer? Is my hand shortened that I cannot redeem, or have I no power to deliver? Behold, at my rebuke I dry up the sea, I make the rivers a wilderness, their fish become foul, and there is no water, and die for thirst. And I clothe the heavens with blackness, and I make sackcloth their covering. And it occurs again in Zephaniah chapter 3. Woe to her that is filthy and polluted, to the oppressing city. She hearkened not to the voice, she received not correction, she trusted not in the Lord, she drew not near to her God. Her princes in the midst of her are roaring lions, her judges are wolves of the desert. They leave not a bone for the morrow. Her prophets are wanton and treacherous persons. Her priests have profaned that which is holy. They have done violence to the law. The Lord who is righteous is in the midst of her. He will do not unrighteousness. Every morning doth he bring his right to light, it faileth not. But the unrighteousness knoweth no shame. I have cut off nations, their corners are desolate. I have made their streets waste, so none passes by. Their cities are destroyed, so that there is no man, so that there is no inhabitant. I said, surely thou wilt feel me, and thou wilt receive correction. So her dwelling shall not be cut off, despite all that I have visited on her. But they betimes corrected all their doing. So in these passages, Israel is a woman,
yes.
Or more correctly, Judah is a woman. And all of the things that happened to her, the Assyrian invasions, the Egyptian invasions, all of these things are seen as God's punishment for her going after other gods.
Yeah, which is a persistent charge by the Old Testament upon the people of the Hebrews.
It's kind of interesting because it's providing, an explanation for why is it that if we're God's chosen people, we are constantly being invaded.
Yeah, exactly.
We never have any peace.
and so you're left with the point where you're God's chosen people, but why are you constantly losing? And why are you constantly subjugated?
Exactly. And so their answer to that was a theological one, that, it's our fault. It's because we won't stop worshiping other gods. That's why these other guys keep winning. It's not that, they're stronger empires.
Which is a typical neurotic religious response to this, that it's my fault. I have not submitted myself enough to God. I've not done God's will. I don't have enough faith. It's my fault. It's my fault. It's my fault.
Yeah. And like in Hosea again, it says, plead with your mother, plead, for she is not my wife, neither am I her husband. Let her put away her harlotries from her face, and her adulteries from between her breasts, lest I strip her naked, and set her as in the day she was born, and make her as a wilderness, and set her like a dry land, and slay her with thirst. And I will not have compassion upon her children, harlotry, for their mother hath played the harlot, and she that conceived them hath done shamefully. For she said, I will go after my lovers, that give me my bread and my water, my wool and my flax, my oil and my drink. Therefore, behold, I will hedge up the way with thorns. I will make a wall against her, that she shall not find her paths. And she shall run after her lovers, but she shall not overtake them. And she shall seek them, and she shall say, I will go and return to my first husband, for then it was better with me than now. For she did not know that it was I that gave her the corn and the wine and the oil, and multiplied unto her silver and gold, which they used for Baal. So
which
it's
the
really rich
Yahwists
imagery.
have always denigrated consistently throughout the Old Testament as Baal or Baal, however you pronounce that.
They're blaming the Baal worshippers in their midst for they're all poor and they don't have any food. Even in Amos, which is probably of one of the earliest books of Nevi'im, it refers to Israel as an independent kingdom from Judah, and it talks about the nation of Israel as a virgin. So in Amos chapter 5, it says, Hear ye this word which I take up for a lamentation over you, O house of Israel. The virgin of Israel is fallen, and she shall rise no more. She is cast down upon the land. There is none to raise her up. For thus saith the Lord, that the city that went forth 1,000 shall have 100 left, and that which went forth 100 shall have 10 left of the house of Israel. For thus saith the Lord unto the house of Israel, Seek me, and ye shall live, but seek not Bethel, which had, it was a city in Israel, in the northern kingdom, that had a separate shrine. Nor enter into Gilgal, nor pass into Beersheba, which had the sister shrine of the shrine at Bethel. For Gilgal shall surely go into captivity, and Bethel shall come to naught.
So many churches in the Protestant tradition are named after Bethel. If it was a Baal worshipping a city, then why would there be so many Bethels around in the Christian tradition, Protestant era?
The literal translation of Bethel is house of God.
Okay, well, that clears that up.
And,
it's just which one?
The first occurrence of the name Bethel in the Bible, in the Bible as it is laid out, if you pick it up, is Jacob. And it's in the story of Jacob's ladder, where Jacob falls asleep and he sees a ladder that descends from heaven, and angels are going up and down it. He says, God, if you bring me back safely to my home, then I promise I'll build you a shrine here. Kind of the history of that.
So not chronologically speaking, but in the order of the text is laid out canonically, that is the first appearance. So it's not a Baal kind of first appearance.
Yeah.
They're not balling around.
No. But later the city did become part of the Northern Kingdom.
Which we know were all horrible
apostates. Far more interested in Baal than...
Well, I don't blame them. I mean, Yahweh is temperamental, he's misogynistic, he's boring, he doesn't like to coexist with other deities, he's jealous, he kills people on a whim, he commits genocide. I mean, I'd try a Baal once or twice. Actually, I have tried a Baal once or twice. Yahweh and Ishtar, they're kind of on that same quality level.
So with listing all these cities, what Amos seems to be saying is that you should seek God from your own homes, and not in any of the cities, including not to seek Him in Jerusalem, because destruction is about to fall on the cities, and, the destruction will be so complete that 90% of the population is going to be gone. However, I believe that the addition of Amos to the biblical canon was probably done in part by people who wanted to cement that it was Jerusalem in the southern kingdom, not any of the cities of the north like Gilgal or Beersheba or Bethel, where God should be sought. So it was kind of like subverted almost right away into, here's this guy who's preaching about all these, cities you should flee from. He doesn't mention Jerusalem. So Gilgal, Beersheba, and Bethel were all cities in the northern kingdom. They were all cities in Israel.
Okay, Israel's the northern kingdom. Okay.
What Amos seems to be saying here is that you should seek God from your own home and not from the cities, including not seeking God in Jerusalem, because destruction is about to fall on the cities, and it's going to be so complete that 90% of the population is either dead or in captivity. So you should avoid the cities, you should stay home.
Okay.
I think that that's what Amos is trying to say.
So they're saying don't be attracted to the Assyrian-occupied north.
Yeah, and don't, this is before the Assyrian occupation.
Okay.
So he's saying don't run to the cities, they're all going to be wiped out.
Okay.
And it could have been just that he saw the political winds changing, but Amos got added to the biblical canon, not by people from Israel, but by people from Judah. And for the people of Judah, it was very important that Jerusalem be the only city where God can be reached. And Jerusalem was in Judah, not in Israel.
Yes.
So they wanted people to come from Israel to seek God in Jerusalem. And so they added Amos to the biblical canon kind of to support that you should flee from Bethel, flee from Gilgal, and flee from Beersheba, all cities in the north, and seek God down south in Jerusalem. But unfortunately, Jerusalem didn't last much longer.
Well, good that prophecy was.
Yeah. So, almost right away, this book was being, subverted for political purposes. It's being subverted by the kingdom of Judah and the people who are trying to push for Jerusalem.
Okay, yes. And this book you're referring to is Amos?
Yes.
Okay.
So, but all of these passages from Amos and Hosea and Isaiah, Jeremiah, they all contain a ray of hope that although God is going to destroy the land, and there are a lot of people who are going to die, there's going to be famines, there's going to be wars, although He will punish and exile, He will also bring her back. Often, the language of reconciliation is the same language used in the message of punishment. So in Hosea, where the children Jezreel, Lo-Ami, and Lo-Ruhamah signified God's anger, the reconciliation passage reverses their names. In chapter 2, it says, Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured or numbered. And it shall come to pass that instead of that which was said unto them, Ye are not my people, or Lo-Ami, it shall be said unto them, You are the children of the living God. And the children of Judah and the children of Israel shall be gathered together, and they shall appoint themselves one head, and they shall go out of the land, for great shall be the day of Jezreel. And say ye unto your brethren, Ami, and to your sisters, Ruhamah. So that's, say unto your brethren, my people, and to your sisters, mercy. Whereas before it had been Lo-Ami, or no, not my family, and Lo-Ruhamah, no mercy.
Okay.
So it's the kind of reversal of the names to become good instead of bad. Isaiah's words of reconciliation also make a beautiful liturgy. In Isaiah chapter 54, starting at verse 4, it says, Fear not, for thou shalt not be ashamed, neither be thou confounded, for thou shalt not be put to shame. For thou shalt forget the shame of thy youth, and the reproach of thy widowhood shalt thou remember no more. For thy Maker is thy husband, the Lord of hosts is his name, the Holy One of Israel is thy Redeemer. The God of the whole earth shall he Lord have called thee as a wife forsaken and grieved in spirit, and a wife of youth, can she be rejected? Saith thy God, For a small moment have I forsaken thee, but with great compassion shall I gather thee. A little wrath I have hid my face for thee for a moment, but with everlasting kindness shall I have compassion on thee, saith the Lord thy Redeemer. So, again, this is coming after some pretty bad destruction, whereas before, it had all been, exile and doom and gloom. Bad things are going to happen to you because you turned away from God. Now it's, God is sorry about all the bad things that he's made happen to them, and he wants to bring them back, and he wants to, give them a new hope and a new home. Another reconciliation passage in Isaiah was written as a call and response. And if you could read the blue parts, it'll help to demonstrate that. So it says in Isaiah chapter 26, starting at 17, Like as a woman with child that draweth near the time of her delivery, is in pain and crieth out in her pangs, so have we been at thy presence, O Lord. We have been with child, we have been in pain, we have, as it were, brought forth wind. We have wrought not any deliverance in the land, neither are the inhabitants of the world come to life.
Thy dead shall live, my dead body shall arise. Awake and sing, ye that dwell in the dust, for thy dew is as the dew of light, and the earth shall bring to life the shades.
It's this very, beautiful call and response where the woman is crying out to God and saying, we've been in pain. We have been through all this terrible shit, and we have nothing even to show for it. We've brought forth the wind, which is, we've been... It's like almost like imagery of a miscarriage.
Okay.
And that, there's nothing there. There was nothing born.
That God's promise seemed empty.
Yeah.
Because of course they
so
held this ideology again that they were God's chosen people, and yet they're losing.
Yeah. And so God is saying to them, no, it's not going to always be like that. Your dead will live. Your dead bodies will arise. And it's kind of this beautiful, liturgical kind of hope, which I think was very much lacking at the time. I can
especially
imagine that
when your original expectations are so grandiose.
Yeah. Where you've got this expectation that, we've got this great kingdom, we're God's special people, we are going to manifest destiny.
We the
God
best, as DJ Khaled would say.
The opposite happens. You don't get to conquer people, you get invaded. And,
and the next time that they would even have any sort of power in 70 to 71 AD would lead to their downfall and diaspora for the next 2,000 years or whatever.
Yeah. So it's really, the seeds of this are set pretty early, even 5th century BC, you have this problem here of we're supposed to be God's special people, and instead all we get is like terrible shit happening to us.
So no wonder people are fleeing to the different balls left and right, because Yahweh was promising something that he obviously couldn't deliver, and so these books were written kind of to continue the tradition and try to justify some of the misfortune that these people had.
Exactly. And to give them hope that, no, if you hold on, it's not going to be like this forever. That, that you will be redeemed. God is going to buy you back. God is going to, bring back the people who you have lost, the people who have either been killed or been enslaved. They're not gone forever.
One day you'll be able to institute apartheid and oppress all the people around you with bulldozers. But first, the Holocaust.
It's very interesting how this was being laid out even so early on, and how
it was a mentality and a very important part of the ideology that there needed to be this hope because there was so much misfortune. For these books that we're talking about, what is the distance temporally between when they were written and when what they are purporting to describe time-wise?
They probably would have been written. Well, it depends on which of the books. And a lot of them, even if they are one book, they are written over a large amount of time.
So what about Hosea?
So Hosea was probably penned, at least, the beginning of it was probably penned towards the beginning of the return, so the end of the first exile, about the time, when they would have been, rebuilding the temple and all that stuff. And a lot of it gets post-dated. A lot of prophetic books, you can time when they happen, not by the things that they say will happen, but the things that they get wrong.
Yeah. Give us an example of that.
So, in the book of Daniel, it talks about Nebuchadnezzar and Nebuchadnezzar's future victories, and it's kind of purporting to prophesy Nebuchadnezzar and all the things that he will do. Mm-hmm. But about halfway through, it starts going horribly wrong. And Nebuchadnezzar dies and doesn't fulfill half the prophecy stuff.
Wow. Wow, okay. Do you think they were writing it as it was kind of unfolding itself?
Yeah, and that's why they got the future bits wrong, because they were trying to predict what was going to happen.
Which the whole point of a book of prophecy is to describe the future.
Yep. So
God's chosen people can't even use their prophets, can't even have prophets that can correctly predict the death of the king that rules over them. So they're pretty much useless.
This is gone on into a lot more depth in that course I mentioned at the top of the episode.
Yes.
So if you want to listen and hear about when all these books were actually written, what were the things that were happening, why were they written?
So in general, the time lapse is not so great for, it seems, these works.
Yes.
So they're not describing things that are thousands of years before.
Yeah.
They have very practical, real-time, kind of political uses. Like if I were to write a book about fake news today.
If you were to write a book and start talking about Obama and all the things that happened under Obama's presidency.
And then Hillary Clinton's presidency, and then in the middle something happened.
Yes.
So that makes a lot of sense. That's a good parallel.
She's not president.
The president shall bring.
Then you have to scramble to...
I mean him.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's kind of what's going on with a lot of these passages. The major exception to that is Isaiah, which is actually broken into 6 separate books by historians, which were all written at different times. Yes.
It's like a Grand Canyon layering.
Yeah, it is. And so you've got these 6 different layers of different time periods and different things that happened during those times. So all the passages that I quoted from the first book of Isaiah and the other 5 books progressively worse at predicting the future.
Oh, Jesus.
So, yeah.
Oh, Yezu. Or I guess I should say, oh, Yahweh. Well, we are going to have to wrap it up for this for this installation. Is there anything else you wanted to squeeze in the last 5 minutes?
It's interesting how this sort of imagery of God is as a husband and not as a master or unreachable ethereal being, and of the Jewish people collectively as a wayward bride, not as people who stumbled onto a certain God's habitat, like a lot of other local traditions had.
For sure.
It's not to say that the passages are true, but they're certainly very powerful.
It's psychologically true. That's the phrase. Psychologically true. Yeah.
Yeah. But while it's all very poetic and beautiful to us,
not really to me.
What it says for the real-life women is rather horrifying.
Yes.
You know, even a woman of status could be sold into slavery for something like adultery. Sexual liberation, well, it existed to an extent if you were already a prostitute, like Hosea's wife.
Or if you consider incest in Persia sexual liberation.
The true sexual liberation, though, being able to pick who you had sex with, well, it existed, to an extent. Well, if you're a prostitute, it puts you in a position with very few legal protections. There's no one there to look out for your safety and make sure that you're not being abused.
At least in the Yahweh cultures, in some of the quote-unquote, I know this is a construct, but pagan or non-Jewish traditions surrounding the area, there was a place for shrine prostitutes that was a kind of protected class, no?
Yeah.
But Hebrew culture did not have this, at least at this moment. At this moment, I think we had discussed in the homosexuality that pre-Jewish Hebrew Semitic temples did have that institution.
Yeah. And they had male and female
shrine prostitutes.
Life was short and terrifying and really restrictive for the women living at that time. You were just as likely to be killed by the foreign invaders as you were to be raped or enslaved by them. And foreign invaders were a constant threat. Being married provided some protection during peacetime, but this peace was very rare. You were unlikely to be living in peace times. And a jealous husband, even during peacetime, might just strip you naked in the street and sell you into slavery anyway. So religion offered both a sense of hope and a sense of guilt. God might come and fix things for you, but it was your fault things had gone so horribly wrong in the first place. And so, if you're thinking about it from the perspective of the women at that time, I don't think it was as rosy and as nice sounding as the passages may seem today.
Thank you. This has been the next edition of Women and Property in the Abrahamic Tradition as we mosey through we're still in the Torah. Yes, we're in Isaiah and Hosea and et al. Thank you very much, Sophia Mukamadova. And you can also catch Sophia in the premiere of my new talk show, Jacob! Where she is hosting a residency for the year 2017 as the second segment in that program. Sophia, would you like to just describe a little bit of what your residency is all about?
We talk about the goddesses in the video games I play, and the gods, and a bunch of other stuff.
Yes. Yeah, well, and it took a turn for the unexpected, I think, really. So if you want to hear what the saucy dreams of Sophia, definitely tune in to the premiere episode of Jacob! #Red Oprah. Where can people find more of your material?
You can find me on YouTube at YouTube user Fingerboxes, or you can find me on Twitter at BlueFingerbox, or you can find me on Facebook at Sophia Muhammadova. It's a page.
Wonderful.
If you message me, I will probably respond. So.
Despite the torrents of fan mail you get every day. And of course, you're probably listening to this on my SoundCloud page. Please subscribe and listen to my other audios. Or if you are listening to this on Sophia's YouTube page, please visit my SoundCloud page, where you can find other programs about this and other subjects. Jacob Music, JAKOBMUSICK. Also, that is my name on Facebook. Also, visit my blog cultureconf at jacobmusicmiller.blogspot.com. Also, I have a Tumblr that is centered around brutalist architecture and brutal photography, and you can find that at jacobmusic.tumblr.com. Thank you very much for listening, and may all your prophecies come true. Bye.
And I know he's so bitter he can't see his own blessings. Goddamn, you too blind to see you got fans and a platform to make a classic rap song to changing life, but you too anxious living life. Always worry about the critics who ain't never did it. I write what's in my heart, don't give a who fucking with it. But in a sense I can relate. The need to be great turns into an obsession and keeps it